Hello there, Stanley Carr here. I love collecting music and sports memorabilia. Want to know where you can find some? I'll tell you. Go to oldglory.com. This website features one-of-a-kind apparel from your favorite sports teams and musical artists. And I can help you get 15% off of all items. Use the code WWH135. Enjoy the episode.
Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. This is the show where we talk with professional wrestlers and professional wrestling personalities about their lives in and outside of the ring, as well as doing acts of charity work, community service, volunteering, and spreading positivity. We're always about the positive vibes here on the show. And with me today, I've got a very, very special guest. He is a former WWE World Tag Team Champion, one of the most memorable characters of all time. I am pleased to welcome the one and only Nick Dinsmore, a.k.a. Eugene. Welcome to Wrestling with Heart.
Thank you, Stanley. I appreciate it. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So, talk to me about your childhood. Where did you grow up?
I was born in Lexington, Kentucky, but when I was 1 year old, my family moved to outside of Indianapolis, Indiana. So I grew up in central Indiana. I saw professional wrestling for the first time. We didn't have cable back then because we lived way out in the country. So I just got, air TV antennas, if you know what that is, young man. But I just got Saturday afternoon WWF wrestling. So that's what I first saw.
So this was back in the 80s when you had Hogan and Macho
Yeah.
Man and Warrior and Jake the Snake Roberts and all these different guys. I mean, this was a boom period. I mean, talking about the rock and wrestling era, with Cyndi Lauper and Little Annie Kai and Captain Lou Albano and all these different people, Wendy Richter. Just a huge era.
Yeah, I got into it, like looking back now, it was shortly after WrestleMania 1. Because the first Saturday Night's main event, it was either the first or second Saturday Night's main event overall. But it was after Orton and Piper turned on Orndorff, and Orndorff turned babyface, and he attacked him on Saturday Night's main event. And I saw Piper run out the ring, through the crowd, under the bleachers, down the hall. Orndorff chasing him. Piper locks himself in a closet, and Orndorff's pounding on the door, and I'm like, what is this? This is the best thing I've ever seen. Uncle Elmer got married later in the show, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I was like 8 years old.
Yeah, you just know when you get that feeling, you watch this for the first time, it's like, man, I want to do this. I want to be in this business because this is just, where else can you find this entertainment?
They used to have it in roller derby, but it's not as popular as it used to be.
And so, 8 years old, you knew this is what you wanted to do. Talk to me about the wrestlers that you idolized growing up, because there's just so many guys that I know that you've talked about in interviews, being inspired by, but who are like some of yours that you go, I like their style?
Well, Hogan was the top guy, and I was 8 years old, so of course I was a Hogan fan. But I really liked the British Bulldogs. I liked tag teams that did moves together and had similar outfits, and it was just a neater package. I don't know why, jumping off one another and doing all the cool stuff that a tag team, especially those two, could do. I think Dynamite Kid needs to be in the WWE Hall of Fame. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, they had so many great tag teams: the British Bulldogs, the Killer Bees, the Hart Foundation, the Rockers, just stacked full.
The Conquistadors. I think the Conquistadors should be in the WWE Hall of Fame one day, but I only say that because I was a Conquistador once.
Yeah, I mean, you get to play different, variety of different roles. You were a conquistador, you were Doink the Clown,
That's right. That was no laughing matter.
All about taking the role seriously.
That's right. No clowning around.
No clowning around. Okay. So 8 years old, you knew this is what you wanted to do. Talk me through like the training process, and because when you enter in wrestling schools, I've talked to numerous people on the show before. It really is a grind because you got to really make a lot of sacrifices and put the work in. What was your experience like learning how to wrestle?
So from Central Indiana, I moved to the Louisville, Kentucky area. We lived in southern Indiana in Jeffersonville. I went to high school there, and I was on the Homecoming King court. I didn't win Homecoming King. I'm still going to say I got screwed, but that's okay. Kevin Young got me. Anyway, when they're walking down during the school assembly, they're like, oh, this is Nick Dinsmore. He wants to be a WWF wrestler someday. So there was a girl that I'd seen in the hallway. She was 2 years younger than me. She came up to me. She goes, my dad's got a wrestling school in Jeffersonville. And I was like, wow, I've never heard of a wrestling school in Jeffersonville. I would watch USWA, the Memphis promotion, and they would talk about the Jarrett's Wrestling School in Hendersonville. And that was like the only real wrestling school near me that I thought I could try to go to. But this girl was the daughter of the Nightmare Danny Davis, who owned Ohio Valley Wrestling. At the time, it was just the Nightmare Danny Davis School of Wrestling. So I went there when I was 18, when I was still in high school, and talked to him a little bit. And then I was going to intend on enrolling after high school. I played in an all-star football game and ended up getting injured. So I had to rehab that. But then I started pro wrestling when I was 19 at the Nightmare Danny Davis School of Wrestling. And it was difficult, but I was in pretty good shape at the time. I just come out amateur wrestling and playing high school football and lifting weights. And a lot of the other guys that signed up were just local guys from the Louisville area. Some of them were former athletes, but none of them really were in peak physical condition. But still, when you're getting slammed on the mat and hitting those ropes and learning how to give punches and kicks and drop forearms on everybody, taking pile drivers, it does tend to hurt a little bit.
What kinds of things when you're talking about amateur wrestling and then playing football? What kinds of things do you feel like help prepare you from doing that and parlaying that into professional wrestling?
The amateur wrestling, especially because I easily understood if I apply pressure on somebody, how their body should react, or if someone applies pressure on me, how my joints would react. So it's pretty, it just came naturally because some guys, if they're not really in a physical sport like that, they don't get it. If I twist your arm this way, that I could take you down this way or whatnot.
What kinds of things that you learned, that any tips that you can recall from your mentors that you took away from your time learning how to wrestle and have applied to today after your time in the WWE and running your own school?
There were a lot of things starting out that made me open my eyes to the world. The one piece of advice that I heard over and over is it's not how much you make, it's how much you save. I don't know if I really listened to that one because I always told people you could have a lot of money or have a lot of good stories, and I have a lot of good stories. But just the respect you treat someone in the locker room and just interacting with people on a business basis. It was those things that were invaluable as I've gotten older to be able to manage myself throughout life.
Yeah, I mean, you learn pieces of advice, like life advice, and you're able to take that with you, and I mean, it just goes a long way. And so, starting out, who are some of your mentors that you got the chance to work with and really helped guide you along throughout your journey?
When I started training, Nightmare Danny Davis trained me in the school. He never got in the ring. He just stood on the outside and talked. But the hustler Rip Rogers was still wrestling, and he wrestled for OVW as well. So I got to wrestle Rip, who was, I think he was, when I was 19, I think he was 42, bodybuilding man, fresh off WCW TV, and I got to wrestle him between 1 and 3 times a week. And Rip was really the one who in the ring taught me how to be a performer. Nightmare Danny Davis showed me all the moves, how to do the moves and how to do everything. And then he would watch video with me to correct my mannerisms and get bigger facials. But Rip was the one that I could feel the crowd and I could feel him bringing us up and bringing us down. And he was just, it was just definitely invaluable, the hustler Rip Rogers.
What kinds of things did Rip teach you about and tell you, on techniques, on things to work on, and how you were able to kind of fix it and retool?
Rip was just a big performer, and it was just to get the most out of the least. We don't want to do a bunch of stuff and hurt ourselves and risk injury when we can get away with doing a lot less to get the exact same reaction. And it was just positioning yourself to the crowd or to a camera, and just when to get the crowd up, when to bring them down, how to do that. It was just a lot of the minutia that I think is kind of stuff you get taught in what they used to call a finishing school when you're towards the end of your training and you really, polish everything that some guys don't get because uh, you have to work with or get trained by someone who is really a top guy that knows all those tricks to learn those things.
Yeah, and it seems like too, psychology is very important. You want to know why you're doing the moves, and it seems like Rip and Danny were able to teach you, both of those things. And so over time, you put your reps in and you make your debut in the ring. Talk to me about your first match in the business. Any memories? Were you nervous?
Yeah, I'm sure I was nervous, but I've been training for 6 months at the Nightmare Danny Davis School of Wrestling. I had my first show at the Nightmare Danny Davis School of Wrestling. They started running events on Sunday nights, and I wrestled Handsome Jason Lee, another OVW original and good friend of mine. And I'd worked with him in training, but the building probably sat like 200 people. And normally on a Sunday night, they'd have anywhere from 100 to 150. And I think 50 to 60 members of my friends and family showed up for it. So, I mean, this place was packed. And I mean, it was a good match. It was fun. I remember it fondly. I've got pictures from it. But I knew that was like, the kickoff to hopefully something. When I started pro wrestling, I thought, I just want to try this. I just want to try it. I'm sure I'm going to go on to do something else because nobody grows up to be a WWE superstar. You know what I mean? And just good things kept happening. The first match was good. It kept getting better and better. I kept learning and just kept immersing myself in the business, and it led me to where I am today.
Yeah, and so you make your TV debut. You worked in Memphis, had a few matches in WCW. Walk me through the process of those experiences because it's a big deal, making your debut on television.
So you talking about OVW TV? Like OVW TV didn't start for a while. I
We're
was
talking about
training
Memphis, and
Memphis TV.
yeah.
Okay, so I was training in Louisville, or training at the Danny School, at the Nightmare Danny School of Wrestling. It was a Tuesday night. USWA Memphis territory always came to Louisville Gardens on a Tuesday night. It was the 1st of April, 1997. Danny gets a call, and he goes, looks at me, goes, "Have you got your wrestling stuff?" I didn't have it, but it was in my house. But which went far? I said, "Yeah, I can get it." They said they need somebody at the Louisville Gardens. Somebody didn't show up, so I tore out of there, got over to the Louisville Gardens. I got there right as the first match was going in the ring. I'm nervous. I didn't know any of these people. I knew Dean Hill because Dean Hill did announcing for both USWA and OVW. So I come in and I'm nervous, and they go, "April Fools," and my heart sank. And then Dean goes, "No, I'm just kidding. You're on second." And I wrestled. Remember Mantar?
Mm-hmm.
When he was a part of the South African Truth Commission, who had a short stint on TV, was Tank with a mask. I wrestled Tank in the Louisville Gardens. Um, that was kind of like the people then Jerry Lawler and whoever the office was for USWA saw me wrestle. So then I started on TV the next couple Saturdays. I don't remember. The TV in Memphis was live to Memphis, but it was a week delayed to Louisville. So I rode down with a buddy of mine and went in, and I remember being nervous because I didn't know anybody, and I went out there, and the first match I had, I don't even remember which one it was. 'Cause I had like 8 matches on USWA TV, but I mean, it was so long ago. And I remember coming to Memphis, and it was just an eye-opening experience and live TV. Oh, I remember. Did I tag with Flash? Yeah, I tagged with Flash, and Lance Russell's interviewing us, right? And I was so nervous. I didn't know what I was going to say. And he asked Lance or Flash something, and Lance didn't even ask me anything. He just sent us to the ring. I was like, oh, I didn't have to say anything, but oh well.
Yeah, and so I mean, you get over those nerves and you start to building confidence, and you work in WCW as well, and then OVW came along, getting the chance to work there. Of course, you were a mainstay of that promotion, getting the chance to really help build uh, some of the people that went on to be big names. You worked with Batista and Brock Lesnar and John Cena and all these different people. How did
Randy Orton.
Randy Orton? How did all this come about? Getting the opportunity to work in OVW.
Well, so the Nightmare Danny Davis School of Wrestling turned into OVW, and I was already there. At some point, Rob Conway enrolled in the school, and so did Danny Basham, the Damager. Doug Basham was Danny Davis's nephew. So somewhere mid '98, I think, Danny started doing TV, OVW TV local to Louisville, and it was just all the students doing TV. But what we didn't realize was he was negotiating with WWE to train their developmental talent, and Cornette was wanting to move out of Connecticut and move back to Louisville. So they were talking about putting a territory together, which ended up happening. And when OVW started their own TV, that's kind of when people think OVW started, when it started in 1993. But it was just a school and touring events. But I wrestled for OVW. I was on TV, and then when the developmental guys started coming, I had 3 years of experience. Rob Conway had 3 years of experience, so we were the ones that were really in the ring with them in training, taking all the bumps and doing all the moves, showing them how to do the moves. And then we would wrestle them at the TVs and the live events. So it's kind of like a player coach role.
Yeah, you could say you're an OVW original, getting the chance to really be around all these top guys. What was it like working with so many of these guys that would go on to be big names?
Well, a lot of them were very inexperienced at the time. So it was me taking the bumps and taking the punches and showing them how to do the moves and trying to have the best matches I can have with their limited experience, with my limited experience. I mean, it was all great. I had fond memories with everybody. I became very good friends with John Cena and Batista and Randy Orton. I know Brock very well. Victoria came through there. Shelton Benjamin came through there at the time. And I mean, it was very fond memories because it was new at the time. The developmental system was new. So I remember WWE had said if they get one superstar a year, that the developmental system would be worth it. And then all of a sudden we cranked out 4, 5 huge stars, 6 huge stars.
How long were you in OVW before you got the call up to WWE's main roster?
Well, like I said, I started training in '96. I think the developmental guys came around '99. I think when Rico Constantino was the first one, and then that's when we were in the building in Jeffersonville, Indiana. If you see the building that had the big pole
Hmm.
next to the ring,
Hmm.
and then we switched over to the building that OVW still uses today in Louisville. I was there until 2004 is when I got called up on TV.
Now, before the Eugene character came about, were there talks of you getting called up in a different role?
Um, I'd done several extra work, dark matches, and stuff like that. There was one idea thrown around when I think before John Cena got Bull Buchanan, when he was Thug Life, John Cena and Bull Buchanan became B squared. Someone had pitched an idea of Rob Conway and I being two stooges for Cena. And their idea was I was going to carry a football because I played football in high school, and Conway was going to carry a basketball because he played basketball in high school. And at the time, I'd been like, well, that'd be great, but I don't know what the heck I'm going to do with a football in a wrestling match. So I don't know that it was a very fleshed out idea, and it probably turned out better for me the way it was. But there was at least one idea. But I know that the writers were supposed to be trying to come up with new ideas for the top developmental guys that were ready to be called up for TV. So I don't know if any other ideas were really pitched, but that was one possible.
You got called up in 2004 to be this character, Eugene, the nephew of Raw general manager Eric Bischoff. Um, who came up with that idea? And what was your reaction to get the role?
So I pitched the idea to Vince, but it was Rip Rogers, Hustler Rip Rogers, that gave me the idea. Somewhere along 2003, we would have training at the OVW Training Center in Louisville, and Rip was the head trainer at the time, and he would come in, he would pitch guys ideas or something, maybe a character like this, something. And again, back then the developmental system was very different than it is today. Today they would do research on a character archetype, and they would flesh it out and try it, and it was very different back then. But I just started coming up. Rip said, "What about a character that?" Maybe he can't put a square peg in a square hole. Maybe he didn't know how to tie his shoes correctly. But when he gets in the ring, he can do everything flawlessly because he's watched wrestling his whole life. And Rip based that on his son who has autism. Now the kid's I think he's in his 20s now. He just or 22 graduated college at Kuma Sum Laude or whatever that word is. And I just kind of put that idea of an idiot savant wrestler in the back of my head in 2003. And I remember the agents came down. Arn Anderson was the one I was talking to, and I pitched it to idea to Arn. I said, "What about this idiot savant character? That isn't very smart backstage. He might not be social backstage, but in the ring, he's perfect." Because that was the critique on me was he's perfect in the ring, but he's got no personality outside the ring or over the top personality. And I remember Arn looks at me, and he goes, "Wrestling's gone past those gimmicks. We are more reality based now." I said, okay. I filed that idea in the back of my head. A couple months go by. The writers came down to OVW, and the writers rarely came down. So everybody's trying to get their time and get their attention. And I pitched that I did to the writers, and I remember one of them goes, Dave Lagana goes, "Oh, Vince would never do anything like that." Okay. So I filed that in the back of my head. Time goes on. 2004 rolls around. It was February 2004. And I had a meeting with Vince McMahon at a Raw. And I'm backstage. I'm in his office. Vince is there. Stephanie McMahon's there. And Vince goes, "I want to get back to character based wrestling." And without thinking about it, I just pitched out that idea. So Vince is sitting there, doing his chin, going, "The Rain Man of Wrestling." He didn't actually say the Rain Man of Wrestling. I just think it sounds better in the story. I don't even think he knows who the Rain Man movie was. But Stone Cold Steve Austin walked in his office. Austin was back promoting a movie, and they taped the Saturday Night's Main Event before Raw. So Vince goes, "Steve, have you ever seen this kid wrestle?" And Austin looks down his nose, and like that, one of those. And he goes, "No, I don't think I have." And I said, "Well, Nightmare Danny Davis trained me because I knew Danny and Austin became friends when they were both in Dallas." And Austin goes, "Well, he's probably one of the best." And Vince goes, "Great, we'll start on Monday." We didn't actually start the following Monday, but that was the vote of confidence from Steve Austin that didn't even know me. I'd met him once, but he didn't even know me. And then Vince said, "Let's run with it." But
Yeah,
I think what was going on is I'd been on the list to be called up for a while, and nobody really knew what to do. And I think it was a time where let's try something and see if it works. And if it doesn't, we'll just release him, which they've done with a lot of guys. They put somebody on TV with a weak gimmick, and it might last 2 or 3 weeks, and then they get they get their release. I don't think they thought it was going to succeed. And they put me with Bischoff just as kind of a knock on the WCW guy. The special kid is going to be Bischoff's nephew, so we can make fun of him, kind of.
I mean, when Stone Cold Steve Austin, somebody like that gives you the seal of approval, I mean, that's a big deal. And so, I mean, you were a white hot babyface throughout that year, getting to work with so many people: Triple H, Ric Flair, all of Evolution, The Rock, Coachman. I mean,
Hogan
it's
at Mania. I was in
yeah,
the ring with Hogan at Mania.
yeah. You're in the just some of the who's who. Kurt Angle.
Yep.
I want to talk about the segment with you and The Rock because I am a huge fan of that segment. Um, what was it like working with him, and anything that he may have talked about with you, shared any anecdotes with you maybe backstage? Because this was when you first debuted the character.
It was, I think, my fifth week on Raw. And I don't know of any other superstar that had debuted and gotten to be in the ring with someone like The Rock in 5 weeks. But it was in San Diego, and I remember we got to the building because of the time change. The time difference. We have to be at the building early, and TV starts earlier. So I walk in, and Sylvain Grenier runs up to me. Now Sylvain was good friends with Pat Patterson. Pat was in the production meeting. Sylvain and he got the news from Pat. He goes, "They've got a great idea." I don't have a very good Sylvain accent, but he's like, "They've got a great idea for you. They're going to have you come out and The Rock, or it's going to be with Rhino." And I'm going, "The Rock ain't coming." He's in LA filming a movie. I was like, he ain't coming. It's gonna be with Rhino. It'll be good, but the Rhino is no Rock. You know what I mean? Lo and behold, a couple hours later, he shows up. I'm like, oh my gosh! So at the time, I think I was on like 5 or 6 segments on that Raw. So I'd have to run over to this area where they were going to film one. I had to work over here where they're going to talk about the match, and I'm like running all around to all these different stations that I was going to be in. And The Rock was in the back running his lines with the head writer, Brian Gerwitz, right? Um, Brian Gerwitz wrote all of Eugene's stuff, and Brian Gerwitz wrote all the Rock stuff. So he's wrote the whole promo, and Rock's running through it in the back. And then I would come in. I had one line in the promo. I had one line, and I would come in, and we go through it, and I missed it every time. I missed my line every time. So we get out there live on TV, and The Rock's got the people in the palm of his hand, and he's doing it, and he walks around, he puts the microphone by his hip, and he goes, "Your line is next," and just fed me the line, put the mic right there, and it was that interaction that made Eugene a top guy. I say if I was in the mafia, I would have been made that night. I'd have been a made man.
I mean, you sold those reactions really, really well, and carry that over to your storyline with Triple H and Evolution. What was it like working with him and the group? And because you guys had a feud that went on at least through the summer that year.
Yeah, it was like 2 months long. I mean, it was great because hey, they were on top and they were over, but they were easy to work with and they were really cool. Um, I feel like if somebody, I mean, it's like this in any business. Somebody comes along and is doing well and is making money, everybody wants to work with them. So, and the juxtaposition, is that the right word, of evil Triple H and special Eugene and him taking advantage of somebody that you know is easily taken advantage of, got him a lot of heat. But it was a great story.
And also, the other thing that I feel like not a lot of people really think about too, you were paired with William Regal. William Regal is this hated heel, classic bad guy villain and plays it really, really well. But you were able to get him over as well as a babyface. And I just feel like that pairing, it worked really, really well. You and William Regal. What was it like working with him?
Well, first of all, everything we did was mainly him. He's phenomenal. He's one of the best performers I've ever been around, and our connection was like instant and magic. And I really never had a connection with anybody like that. But I'd met Regal several times when I was up doing extra work. But the reason that we had a connection before that is because Hustler Rip Rogers and Regal were roommates in Germany. Hustler Rip Rogers told Regal what to write, Bill Watts, that got him into WCW, that got him into America. So there was a little bit of a connection there. And then when I started on TV, I started riding with him, and he was really a mentor and a friend. And I'd be picking his brain the whole way. But the Odd Couple writing that Brian Gerwitz wrote, I mean, that was phenomenal. And again, but you're right, and I say this a lot. Regal was always the villain. It was always the hated heel, the villain. But this was the first time that he showed, emotion towards someone else. And it started to peel the onion of that character. Who really is William Regal? And he endeared himself to Eugene, and the fans endeared themselves to both of us. It was a magic time and a great storyline.
It really was. I mean, you guys even were tag team champions at one point.
You're right.
And that had to have been such an incredible moment, getting to share that with him and the fans. That I mean, it's not that often when you have moments like that that are real genuine moments, and with a friend of yours, getting that moment for you. I mean, that had to have been very, very touching.
Yeah, and we won the tag team titles in Indianapolis, Indiana. My mom and my sister were in the crowd. I got to win a WWE title, which was a boyhood dream. I got the T-shirt, which was a boyhood dream. I also got the action figure, which was a boyhood dream. The best part about having your own action figures, you get to play with yourself in public.
Now, you got to work with just a who's who of competitors over the years. Throughout your time in the wrestling business, who were some of your favorites?
Well, I mean, the Hustler Rip Rogers, of course, because he was one of the first ones that I wrestled that really taught me how to perform. But the style, the pace, the tempo that Rip had was exactly the same as Triple H, because they were both the heel dominant heels, and I'd be getting beat up and making comebacks. But I got to be, like we said, The Rock, Hogan. I wrestled John Cena when he was in OVW. I wrestled Ric Flair. I mean, I wrestled a lot of people. I've been very fortunate.
And it's amazing how this character has really resonated, with so many different people. Have you gotten, fan letters over the years from people that were inspired by what you were doing?
Absolutely, absolutely. I get letters. I get on my social media, emails. But the ones that really resonate are the people that I see in person. If I see them at a show and they come up to me, and normally it's like this, my brother is also special. And when he saw Eugene on TV, it gave him so much inspiration that he could do anything, and thank you for what you did. I've gotten so much positive affirmation from friends and family people that really enjoyed the character, because at the time WWE didn't make fun of Eugene. He was an underdog success story, winning the tag team title, getting in the ring with the Rock and Hogan, pinning Vince McMahon. I mean it was an underdog that overachieved.
Yeah, I mean, so many kids looked up to you and were able to have in their mind, like, if he can do it, so can I. And you made the most out of it. Now, I want to switch gears and talk about some of the stuff you've done outside of wrestling. I know you've done a lot of charity work and have been involved with different causes. What kinds of things have you done over the years to help out in your community?
So in 2015, I moved to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I opened my own wrestling company and wrestling school. I sold that in 2023, I think. But that whole time, I wanted to create a territory in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, because they had no independent wrestling, and I wanted to give back to the community. So I worked with a lot of the charities there. We worked with the VFW. We worked with I think the Humane Society. But the one that I really liked was Feeding South Dakota. We'd have the can drives and people donate money and stuff like that, and then I take it to the food banks and stuff like that. I enjoyed doing it, but we would get so many cans, and you don't realize how heavy those suckers get when you get a couple hundred cans you're trying to lug around. But it was always nice to show up at the Feeding South Dakota, and they knew who I was, and I got to bring all the cans, and it was really special moments.
Yeah, you just never know, what people are going through, and some people are not able to afford food or get food, and they're hungry and they want to have something to eat. So being able to be there for somebody like that that's going through a hard time, that is heartwarming. Was there like a particular drive that you enjoyed being a part of with Feeding South Dakota that was memorable?
There wasn't like one particular drive. It was just a year-long thing, that we contributed as much as we could. Um, Something else that we did, not necessarily a charitable, but a good note. There was a young 5-year-old girl that had she was recovering from brain cancer, and her family would always come. Her mom and her dad, and I think she had 2 or 3 siblings. But I gave her a front row seat for life for free. And then her dad would come. So she got to be known as Reese. And I would always call Reese our biggest little fan. And everybody cheered for Reese. But then I had a big show one summer, and I had Eugene's musical chairs. And Reese was the outside judge if someone didn't sit down. So she would be saying, "You're out, you're out." And I had Eric Bischoff on that show. He came in for me, and she called Bischoff out, and there was a big play where he threw a fit. He was begging her, not to do it. It was very good. And now she's gone. She's like 15 years old now in school and just doing well.
Wow, that is very, that is very nice. You're able to do that for someone like that, and being able to have that memory. That I'm sure she'll remember that forever. You never forget your first wrestling show that you ever attend, and being a part of something really special. What is it about giving back to the community that gives you the most joy?
It's just, I don't know, the togetherness, the camaraderie of a community, and being able to contribute to that, and then people realizing that's what you do, and you're a good person. Plus, I mean, I wasn't all about me. We did get a lot of advertising when we were doing charity work. I mean, the charity was great, but we wanted to get out there and have shows and have a good time.
That's what it's all about. Kindness just goes a long way. Well, Nick, I want to say thank you so much for coming onto the show. It means a lot to me and to my listeners and viewers that are watching this on YouTube. Where can people find out more about you on social media? If there's anything you want to plug, feel free.
I got the Twitter account. It's at the letter Ugene, Dinsmore, Dinsmore. And then I got a YouTube channel that I've been working real hard on. Behind the scenes with Eugene, where I talk about, I've started once I started on WWE, and just kind of chronicling more in depth in the weeds week by week, what I did, as well as some other good videos. Please go on and subscribe there, because we're trying to get our numbers up.
All right. Thanks again, Nick, and you're more than welcome to come back.
All right, man. Appreciate it. Thank you. Bye
All
bye.
right. Take care.
This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.